because we're trying to accommodate the mayor, would not can join us for the entire meeting. He has a conflict with another meeting. So we'll try to accommodate him and go through the city development and planning, as he has some items that he needs to talk about. And then we'll go back to regular schedule. Ms. Perazzo will be absent this evening. Mr. Kosher, can you chair the claims committee?
Yes, sir, I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you, much appreciated. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the Schenectady City Council weekly meeting for Monday, August the 17th, 2020 to order. I don't see Mr. Shave on, so we'll hold that item. I will go straight into city development and planning to accommodate Mayor McCarthy's schedule. So Ms. Karen Zuluski, Zulus.
Hi, how is everyone? So the first item is under city planning and development is the, I can't read it, Mr. Mudavan, my screen's too small. Thank you. Authorizing the mayor and his designee to enter into an agreement with the Amtrak design and construction of services related to replacement of the Kings Road Bridge. And I believe Mr. Wallen is on.
I'm
Go ahead, Mr. Wallen.
okay. So this is one of two agreements for the Kings Road Bridge. This first agreement is with Amtrak. It is a design service and construction agreement, which will permit Amtrak to review the plans that Clough Harbor has designed for the replacement of the bridge, as well as allow them to put their estimate together for construction services. It is a necessary agreement on this project, as the DOT will not authorize construction without a written letter from Amtrak stating that they approve of the design.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So the next item is to authorize the mayor as designated to enter into a supplemental agreement with New York State Department of Transportation for the design right-of-way, incidental acquisition, a phase of the bridge reconstruction project at Kings Road over CSX and Amtrak. So, Mr. Wallen, I assume it's more of the same?
More of the same. You'll actually be seeing a similar one of this, hopefully by your next meeting. As you see in this title, it says CSX and Amtrak. We had a previous agreement with CSX. That agreement was brought to the DOT. They agreed it. And then this supplemental agreement authorizes funding. These projects are reimbursable to the city. So this supplemental agreement is acknowledgement from the state that they will reimburse us under the project for this money. And this is with CSX, whereas the previous was with Amtrak. Once I have the Amtrak agreement, I will be back with you with a second supplemental agreement for Amtrak. This particular agreement is for the CSX portion. Both railroads need to approve it as they share the line underneath Kings Road Bridge.
Ms. ZW, question?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Kosher.
Yeah, Chris, just one question. What's the time frame on this? Are we being pushed back, or are we looking to be on time, or where are we with this?
Right now, we're still hoping to have this out for construction in the spring of 2021, which was the goal. Going back to the other, not to confuse everybody with this, but number one was with Amtrak. Amtrak is the principal authority on this line. So having this be a design and construction agreement will help us, because that means that we will not need to get a second agreement and a second authorization. So if we can, get the agreement signed, get the authorization in place and everything over to them, they're saying that it would be probably 60 days to review from then. And then we're going to be working on the construction agreement. So I'm hoping that, no, they're not going to hold us up, and that we're going to be ready in the spring to get this on the ground, and so that we can complete it in 2021.
Great. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
So does that mean you're going to start construction this year, or we're going to wait until next year?
We want to start it in the spring and finish it in the fall. We do not want to go over a season, because there's not much work for this that can be done in the winter, and we don't want to have the road closed and no work happening. So that we're really trying to focus on getting out there in the spring, so that weather isn't a factor.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, entertain a motion. I'm sorry, Ms. Whitaker, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Mr. Wallen, is this 100% reimbursable? What is the reimbursement amount on this from Amtrak?
This is 95%.
Okay. So what is our...
A typical project, 80% federal, 15% state, 5% local.
Okay. So do we have a dollar amount attached to that 5%?
For the whole project?
You could, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Do you want for this agreement or for the project? That was a question, I guess.
You can give me for this agreement.
For this agreement, the dollar amount for the 5% is, I'm doing math, $4,200.
Oh, so what is it for the whole project then? 4,200 you said, right? Not 1,000.
Well, the agreement, I'm just talking about the agreement with Amtrak, which is $85,000. The entire project, it's a $4 million project. So our share of that is $200,000.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, I'll second. Thank you, and I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All righty. The next item, Mr. Wallen, you're still up. You're authorized the mayor or designee to enter into a supplemental agreement number 3 with New York State Department of Transportation for the construction phase of the pavement preservation on Guilderland Avenue and Broadway, PIN 1759. So, Mr. Wallen, would you like to expand on that?
Sure. This is more of a housekeeping supplemental agreement. The project has been done for quite some time, Broadway and Guilderland. However, we've been going back and forth negotiating with our representative at the DOT as there were change orders approved to improve drainage conditions, to improve some areas around more, I think, on Guilderland Avenue, where we had some drainage issues. We had some quantities that were a little off. So we met with the DOT a couple of times. They approved a supplemental agreement for additional funding, and that's what you have before you. That will allow us to close out the project with the state and reimburse ourselves for some of the money that we've already outlaid.
Great. Are there any questions?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All righty. Thank you, Mr. Wallen.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks. So the next item on the agenda is a flat rate permit fee for the sale of city houses, and I believe the mayor is going to be discussing that. So, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. President, for shifting the schedule, the committee schedule to accommodate my schedule. What I would ask the council to consider is calling for a public hearing to amend the rate structure for really 2 sets of circumstances for building permits. One is when we sell a city-owned house. Again, people make the commitment to fix it up, to renovate it. Some people are very good about it. Some people do it. They're a little bit slow. And what I'm asking is that a fee structure be put in place when we sell the house. And I don't have the exact number that the staff has agreed on, but it would be between probably $400 and $500, which would be a discount from what the total cost would be on most rehabs. But when we sell the house, we collect the permit fee at closing and issue a permit to cover the plumbing, electrical, and the general construction that would be part of the housing rehab. That will allow us better control to track and work with homeowners to make sure that the properties that we're selling are rehabbed in a timely and correct manner. The other set of circumstances I'd like the council to consider is when a house has or a building has a fire in it. The fire department does a very good job. Our arson investigators are very good in terms of determining cause and origin. And we turn the property over to homeowners in a very quick manner. Most times when there's fire damage, the building inspector is issued an order to vacate because of the damage. And what I would ask the council to do in parallel to when we sell a house is when we're completing that cause and origin investigation with the fire department, that the building inspector is able to issue a blanket permit for electrical, plumbing, and construction to remediate whatever fire damage is there. That will, again, it'll allow us to start tracking these in a more timely manner, where some still slip through the cracks. Some people, again, are very diligent, they do it properly, and then some are more lax in terms of their follow-up of getting the permits. And this will allow us to just better manage the rehab of 2 categories of houses. One, the distressed property that we're selling to homeowners, and then those homeowners or building owners that have suffered fire damage. And I think that this will, it'll help us a little bit where we'll get the permit fee up front. It also, from what staff is working up, it would be a little bit of a discount from what the property owners would have to pay going in on a separate basis. But I think it has the opportunity to work both to our advantage, and then those individuals who are looking to fix up these properties, that we can work with them and monitor it in a manner that works both for their needs and those of the cities. So at this point, I've just asked the council to consider calling for a public hearing to amend that fee structure, and then that we would work up the specific details and cost and timing over the next really 2 weeks as that hearing is being prepared.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a really good idea. It'll help expedite getting these projects done, especially with having them issued at closing. I think that's a really good idea. Are there any questions?
Yeah, Ms. Karen?
Yes, Mr. Mudavan.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate, the incentive giving back to the homeowners, but just like some observation from my side, I had the opportunity to look at 5 properties that we sold last year, and the permits fee that was pulled, it was upward in the 900, 800 range. So, I mean, the discount, we are asking about $500 there.
Again, that's still being reviewed internally, and that could be, it's still clearly at the discretion of the council. Some of that, Jen, is when they're pulling it individually, there's more time where they will go for an electrical permit, they'll go for a plumbing permit, they'll go for a general building permit. So by packaging it all together, it also saves us some time internally in processing those so that they can be done is one unit. They're coming in, and again, it's to give the person applying a little bit of an incentive, and at the same time, the ability for the city to track this and monitor the progress of the rehab. I think that the discounting a little bit says that we're willing to work with people, but again, putting controls in place will give us better long-term outcomes.
So let me clarify that. You're saying that the staff is still working on the finalize the numbers?
Well, the final numbers would be determined by the council, but the staff has been looking at those to see what would be
For a public hearing.
Would be a fair number to put forth.
So can we get that fair number before we?
Yes, he said he'd have it before he said he'd have it before the public hearing. So we'll have it.
An outline. I assume the council would take into consideration comments that might occur at the public hearing before actually setting the fee.
Yes. All right, so
I have a question.
yes, Ms. Porterfield.
Mayor, so given the fact that you're going to basically do one fee and it's going to cover everything because they're getting a discount, I just want to be clear. So that also means that they have to get everything. So currently, if you pull the plumbing, pull a permit for plumbing, you get that done. They come and inspect it. Same for electrical, et cetera. Am I correct?
Correct.
So
I'm saying that one fee, it's the simple way to approach it. The final staff recommendation might be a sliding fee based on the scope of the project, or again, what the council determines.
Right. So if they're paying that one fee for everything, that means when it comes time for inspection, all of those things that fee covers must have been completed.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Zaluski?
Yes, Mr. Cook.
Just to follow in Ms. Porterfield's comment there. So again, they'll still need to file the necessary plans and the paperwork listing the contractors and all that. Is that correct, Mr. Mayor?
Yes. What this will do, though, is start the timeline for housing sales and even remediation after a fire in a quicker manner. Today, when we sell a property, some purchasers are very good about immediately starting work. Others are less diligent, and it might be a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks down the road before they get the paperwork in. And this will allow us to start to monitor that and track it really on the day we sell the property.
All right, and one other question. This is for, we're talking houses only, not commercial properties. Is that correct?
The focus would be on houses. Again, it's still the discretion of the council of what they want to do on commercial properties.
Yeah, I would not want to extend this to commercial that we're selling. I mean, that's at least my 2 cents worth. I would rather keep this just for houses only. Okay, that's all I have at this point on that. Thank you, Ms. Zaluski-Walzernis.
All righty. Any other questions? Hearing none. Do I need a motion to call for a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Ms.
moved.
And I'll second it. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we are now at everything else that is in,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everything else is in executive sessions. So do we want to recess and come back?
Before you do that, I have Mr. Shave online. So I'll revert back to the presentation from the Police Review Board before we go into executive session.
Okay, so then we can recess city development and planning?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So need a motion, Ms. Patrick?
Yes, can we have, make a motion to recess city development and planning?
All right, and I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are recessed. Go ahead, Mr. Mutamere.
Thank you, Ms. Karen. Mr. Shave, you there?
Hello, everybody. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we can.
good. I'm sorry I'm a little late.
That's okay. So just an introduction, Mr. Shave is the chair of the Civilian Police Review Board, and I was fortunate to attend the last meeting and want to talk about what's going on with the Police Review Board and to bring back the quarterly report from this board to the council. For the last 2 quarters, we didn't have a presentation, so I asked Mr. Shave to combine the 2 quarters and to do a presentation for the council and the public to know what's going on and the function of that this board. So, Mr. Shave, it's all over to you now for your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mutamere. I'm, as you heard from him, we have the Police Review Board that's been alive and kicking now for a number of years. It's come and gone in Schenectady's history. But I think last time I was, maybe 18 months ago, I came down and complained about attendance. And we had some open seats, we had quorum problems. I'd like to report that we've straightened that out mostly. We have Human Rights Commission has filled their seat. We have 9 members, and we've been meeting monthly as second Wednesday every month. We've skipped a few times in the past 6 months, partially for COVID initially, and every now and then for lack of cases. For the first 2 quarters of 2020, we've dealt with 14 cases, which is about normal. Usually it's 2 or 3, sometimes 4 a month. In July we had 8, but there was a backup there. We remember that we are just reviewing the investigations that the police have completed. When the chief is okay with it, it comes to us and we take a look, give it a final once over and discuss the matter. If we have any issues, we work with the police, and if necessary, and it's never happened on my watch, we come to city council because you are the ultimate, what do you say about this? You're the owners of our group. In other words, we report to you. So if we had any strong issues with regarding police oversight, we would bring our concerns to you, and you have the subpoena power and whatever other powers you give yourselves, and you'd move forward. Nothing much to say about the previous cases, the first 2 quarters. There was a couple issues of use of force, which the policeman was exonerated. There's a lot of complaints related to discourtesy, and I'm all about looking into those. And periodically, we've agreed that police officers should be disciplined in that regard. So that's the report, and that would be the report you normally get, but these are not normal times. we have not only the COVID, which, messes everything up, but a lot going on in the world and a lot going on in policing locally. So you've all read about and heard about and probably are part of the task force that has been formed under Andrew Cuomo's direction, or I guess he hasn't given out a lot of guidance on how to do it, but Cuomo's pretty solid in that we need to look at our policing from a broad point of view and see what we can do about improvement. I'm pleased to say that myself and Carl Williams, the vice chair, we're going to be part of that task force, which is going to be hoping to direct a series of community meetings and changes. In support of that, the board itself, CPRB, is, well, normally we'd have a retreat and talk about it, but under the virus, you can't. So we're having a series of Zoom meetings to, first of all, come up with what we as a group think might need to be changed to give us a little better visibility to what's going on. In other words, improvements in the relationship between the police and the CPRB. That's one important thing we're going to be doing. And a second thing is, what will we say as a group about the whole situation? Do we have any things we want to come down strongly about? And that'll keep us busy. We're going to have 3 90-minute Zoom meetings in the next 6 weeks. We're trying to schedule them now. And hopefully after that, we'll have more to say. In terms of a budget for next year, we've been able to join the, it's called NACOL. It's the organization that is the Association of Cities that have police review boards as an association. We've joined, and the city was nice enough to fund that. Next year, we'd like to go to their convention. And if the virus would let us, we'd like to have a real board retreat, maybe with some refreshments. So that's the budget request for now. It might change later after our retreat or retreats. And I think I'm done. Who wants to ask any questions?
Yeah, we'll open to my colleagues for any questions.
Yes, Mr. Motivaran, I have a question. I have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
All right. So, thank you. Mr. Shave, could you, can you talk about how any of your process has changed with the repeal of 50A?
Oh, interesting. Well, 50A is repealed now, and as you folks know or don't, 50A was a very strong shield on any personnel record that was part of the police. 50A has been repealed. What we need to do, and we have not done yet, but we are in the process of doing, I've had a talk with the chief about it already, I think I was quoted in the paper about it, is some municipalities are saying, well, fine, it's a public record, a policeman's record, you can FOIL it. Just go ahead and use the Freedom of Information Act. I personally, and not speaking for my board yet, because we really haven't had time to talk about this, but personally, I don't think that's appropriate. If I want to see a personnel record, as you know, I'm quite willing to keep things private, but I want to see what's going on without going to that trouble. So that's where I am on 50A. Please understand that it's not my whole board necessarily. You see?
Okay. All right. You mentioned a couple of things. First of all, the conference that last year, or that people couldn't go. Are they? I understand there's a conference going on now that's going on for quite some time, actually, and so people can attend virtually. And you have members. Did you have members doing that?
We do. It's interesting. We've received some funding from the city to join up, and well, the conference this year for the course is a series of Zoom meetings. There's 30 of them. You can watch them. I don't know if you can actually speak, but you can attend them virtually for $15 a piece or $275 for the whole menu. I've told the board that we have that funded now, and some of the people are watching. Different topics. There's one on each topic.
Okay.
And it seems to be helpful. It's not as good as going to a conference, but you know, it's cheaper. It's nice.
Yeah. And I do have one more question. You mentioned when you were speaking about increasing the relationship or improving the relationship, I think you said increasing the relationship between the police and the CPRB. So what about the relationship between the residents and the CPRB? Because frankly, there's a lot of people who really don't know the board exists, quite frankly, or
Right.
even if they do know that it exists, they're like, how do I submit a complaint? So what is being done on that front?
Well, it's nice that you should mention this because we're working on it. I've always been a committee of one on what I call the outreach committee, just trying to explain to people that any complaint is looked into and complaints are good feedback. Negative feedback helps. It's okay to say something wrong happened, even though it might have been legal, it was wrong. Tell us and we'll look into it. That's what we've been sort of working on, but not all that hard. There's only 9 of us. What we've done recently under Maureen Obie and Carl Williams formed our first active subcommittee, and they've redesigned the complaint form, which we will bring to you for final approval. But it's trying to make a easier to read, easier to understand, and onlineable. In other words, it'll be a PDF that you could fill in the blanks. At the last meeting, we took a look at the first pass of that. And it's taking a while because it's sort of a pain in the ass to do, but it's important. So we're working on that.
Oh, actually, I do have one more question. You mentioned the budget, but I don't see any real numbers unless they're just not coming up on my screen.
I sent them to John. I don't have them here. He can forward them. It was not a lot of money, $4,900 total. Let me read it to you. No big deal. Membership renewal, $400. Convention, $4,000. Board retreat, I did not put with snacks. I suppose I could take the snacks out, $500. So $4,900 total.
Okay.
Now, other people there's some people on my board who think we should be, looking to get quite a bit bigger, spend more money in so doing, maybe get more power. We're working on that in our retreat and we'll be talking about it. But right now, this is where we are.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to add to Mr. Pierce's comment, we were able to fund two board members to attend the seminar.
Yes.
And the intention, Mrs. Shave, is for them to share that information to the other members so everybody can be somewhat participate in the training.
Yes, it's sort of a test of the interest the board members have. Remember, we're sort of an appointed board. Each group appoints a person. Some people get into it, some people don't. We didn't want to spend the money on all 9. So with 2 there, and we might be shifting the passwords around a smidge. And if anyone wants to see just sort of a one-off, I offered to fund it myself. It's $15. So that's what we're doing now. It's not perfect, but it's inexpensive and it's helpful.
Yeah, perfect. And to talk about the form, I think if I'm not mistaken, the goal from the board is to make a one-pager and to eliminate all the unnecessary sections. And
well,
to speak.
Yes, I think it's actually going to 2, the last thing I looked at. But the idea is it can be done online. So the possibility of us having our own website comes up, or having a bigger place on the city website. And being able to actually type in a complaint, because to be candid, a lot of the complaints come in nearly illegible. It's just a lot of people don't have good handwriting or don't have good education. It's nice to be able to do it online, and that's a big goal.
Well, I think that's one of the goals is to have it online, and that's what we discussed. And when we meet that stage, we'll present it to the council, and I hope that we can work with the mayor's office and the IT personnel to make it a online fillable form.
Yeah.
And streamline it in a way that is beneficial to the community. And I think we are removing a section where a notary or commissioner of deed is.
Yes. We call that making it less intimidating. Certain issues with the complaint form look pretty scary. We've made
Yes.
the seal of the city and the police seal much smaller. I mean, it's still there, but it's not as bad as it was. Not bad. It was intimidating before.
The bottom line, the goal is to make it user-friendly and
Yeah.
people to file their complaint very easily without any obstruction
Absolutely.
or intimidation. Yep. Any other questions from my colleague? Comment?
Mr.
Or Mr.
Motivator.
Chair? Go ahead, Ms. Karen.
So what's your time frame? I know you said that you're meeting and, you know, we're trying to implement as many things as possible, as quickly as possible. So what's your time frame as far as changing the form and getting it online to make it more user friendly?
No, the form is close. There's some introductory material so that people can understand how to fill out the form and what the process is. That's not all done yet. The first pass wasn't quite there, but we're a month away from that. No big deal. Remember, we meet once a month, but we have some committee work going on. We should have this by, it should be up and running. I mean, the city needs some time too, but it should be up and running in the fall. I don't see any issue.
Yeah, and I think to help with that, I think when we discussed at the last meeting, board meeting, it was more of the discussion started. It went back to the drawing board. It's going to come back to the next meeting, the board meeting, and then it will present to the council for review and approval.
Yeah.
So we're talking about exactly 2 months, 2.5 months out.
Right. And then the city still needs some time to get it integrated to whatever the web process is.
That's correct, yes.
Mr. Moutier, I have another question.
Go ahead, Ms. Porterfield.
Okay, Mr. Shave, so is there some place that it tells people where they can find these forms other than the police department? Is that made clear for folks?
Yeah. Now, before it was just either the mayor's office or the police headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out the police will take a complaint from anywhere. I mean, you don't need to do the form. You can call them. I mean, we're going to try to make that clear. The form is good. It's great to get the thing laid out, get things rolling. But it just hasn't been good for everybody. A lot of people are illiterate or in a second language, things like that. So we are not about forcing the form. And you'll be able to give it to city council. You'll be able to give it to any member of the police review board. We'll probably put an address in the cover information where you can mail it in.
So they'll be online and they can download it or fill it out online. If they fill it out online, then when they send it, it goes where?
The city gives it to the police. Police starts investigating.
Okay.
Assuming. I mean, it makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was the objective, is that when they fill it out online, and the discussion from the board last month is that when they fill out online, it will automatically go to the person in charge from the police department for this board, and they will get that email with the completed form.
Right. Well, you just gave me some good information, Mr. Shea, but what I was asking is this. If, say I don't want to go online and I don't have a computer or whatever, where can I go other than the police department and other than the mayor's office to get a form to complete? Is that information, I'm sure there are some places, and is that information made available to people where they can pick up a form?
Mr. Shave, don't we have the Human Rights Commission also that submit these forms?
I mean, from the point of view of the police, they don't care where it comes from, so we can do whatever we want. We have not really planned for drop boxes or anything like that, but right now, you can certainly complain through any CPRB board member, anyone in city government, anyone on the city council, or anyone on the Human Rights Commission without there wouldn't be any problem with any of those. Or you can, if you want to avoid the police, is what you're saying. I mean, the police will get a complaint, but I think what you're concerned about is retaliation of some sort or something, or fear, or what's
Not at all. Not at all. But That's not my concern, but some people will feel intimidated
Yeah.
that they want to file a complaint against the police to go to the police station, pick it up, and rightfully so. So it's not about thinking that that's for me anyway. It's not thinking about.
I wasn't saying you. I was just saying the complainant might be a little freaked out by the walking into the police station is a scary thing for me because it's the big window there and all
Mr.
that.
Mr. Budabaran?
So you're right, but it can come.
Mr. Budabaran?
And I think our
Go ahead.
actual legislation covers that,
Yeah.
where they can pick it up. I'm pretty sure that's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before I get to Miss Patrick, yes, the board that was also discussed at last month's meeting. Also, the location. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the mention was also library and all different associations that hard copies of application these documents can be dropped off, so that people can easily pick them up whenever the need is. Miss Patrick.
Well, I was going to bring up the library, not only as a place to pick up a paper form, but also certainly to have access to computers for those people that don't have that may not have that access to be able to do the form online. But I'm sure folks have probably already thought of that. The other thing that I would like to just mention is that this Nextdoor app that many people across the city are using is sort of a big source of, it's a place where people are complaining about different incidents happening in the community. So I just would say to Mr. Shave and the board that would be a good place to advertise that the form exists and where it can be found. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, that's two good ideas. We have a brochure that we've been spreading around town about the CPRB. It's been in existence for a year and a half now. And we would put it at the library, and the library is where it was actually picked up a lot. So we got into sending that into the branches. So the library is a good idea. And just, as the outreach committee chairperson, I'm happy to take your recommendation. And I could listen online and see what they're saying.
Yes. All right. Any other colleagues? All right. Mr. Shave, thank you. And thank you to the board members for the wonderful job that the board is doing. Always appreciating what's going on there. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Ms. Karen?
Are we going to go back to the planning and development, or did you want to go on to finance? Do you want to finish planning and development and then go to finance?
Mayor McCarthy, you wanted to be part of the house sale with your schedule?
Okay. So then,
yeah.
I don't need to be part of the house sales. I think they're all self-explanatory, Mr. President, so whatever your preference is.
Okay. We can go into finance then, and then go into executive session later.
Okay.
So.
All right, I'll call to order the Finance Committee. The first item on the agenda is approve the contract between the City of Schenectady and the Boys and Girls Club of Schenectady. This is part of the CDBG CARES Act. Mr. Ferrari? You're muted, Mr. Ferrari.
Hi, John. This is Derek. I'll be talking about this project here.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Derek.
This is part of the CDBG CV monies for the youth engagement portion of this CDBG CV. We want to contract with the Boys and Girls Club that will the remainder of the summer and fall programs. The programs will be at the new Adeline Wright Graham Clubhouse and the Mount Pleasant Boys and Girls Club. This is really important, especially in today's environment. With what's going on, especially with the schools talking about hybrid class structure. One of the things that the programs will have is early drop-off care for parents and teachers, especially now with COVID and with the issues they're having with that. Let's see, they will serve approximately 140 youths during the COVID pandemic. The contract amount is approximately $285,000 to provide necessary funding to essential programs for the city youth.
Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Mudavaren.
Yeah, just to add to that, this money is coming out from the youth engagement line of $400,000 that was allocated there.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I move this.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is the approve the contract between the City of Schenectady and the Schenectady County Job Training Agency, also part of the CDBG CARES Act. And I'll assume this is also Derek.
Yeah.
It is. Go ahead, Derek.
So this is the portion of youth engagement as well with the CDBG CV funds, and that's coming out of the 400,000. We're contracting for 50,000. This will provide the summer portion. So with what we're trying to contract with right now with SJTA to provide employment and comprehensive job readiness training for low-income city Schenectady youth. Especially, it'll be in the neighborhood revitalization strategy area. So I did say it was 50,000 we'll be providing, and we're hoping to get further funds to fund them in the fall. And like I said, this is part of the 400,000 line for EBG CV funds.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions?
I do have a question, Mr. Palomini.
Go ahead.
Derek, could you, so the 50,000, is that to cover a certain number of youth, or is that just putting money in the pot and they can, use it however? Is there a number of youth that should be employed tied to that?
I believe it's approximately 27 low-income city youth between the ages of 16 and 21.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Mudavaren.
So with these two allocation that we are moving here this evening, we're looking at a balance of $65,000 for any other agency that is going to submit application in the next week or so.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Can I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a
I'll
second?
move it.
You can second it. All those in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Next is a reallocation of funds from the Department of Development to allow for a contract between the City of Schenectady and CARES of New York. This is part of the ESG CARES Act.
Yes.
Derek.
Before, Mr. Palomini, before you get in it, I just want to mention we were waiting on some information from both Mr. Ferrari and Mr. Derek. Did you happen to get that information?
I have not.
Talking about the amount, John?
Yes.
So I spoke with the HUD, our HUD rep, and there's specific.
Hey, Derek, sorry to interrupt you for a second, but you're breaking in and out. If you could just talk up a little bit louder.
I'm sorry. So I spoke with the HUD representative today, and there is no specific rule in regards to how much money for allocating if it goes to the city council. But under our city Schenectady consolidated plan, participation plan, it states that a substantial amendment to the consolidated plan use of community development block grant CDBG funds will occur when there is a substantial change in purpose, scope, location, project with a cumulative total of 100,000.
No, when you say 100,000, you got that information from HUD?
No, I got this from our city consolidated plan, the development department.
So just so we're straight, HUD doesn't have a requirement, but our development office put it at $100,000.
As far as I know, yeah.
So we're asking here to reallocate 50,000, just over $50,000 from Department of Development, and it's going to CARES Inc. CARES of New York Inc. Okay.
So can I ask a question, please? What is the amount? What is the reallocation amount?
Approximately 50,000.
Okay, so I guess then my other question is, because based on the math, isn't there 65 left out of this 400,000? Is that the number we're starting with?
No, that's
No, sorry. It's a separate line.
This is different.
Okay.
ESG CV cares.
Derek. Why
Okay.
don't you get a hold of the whole situation, how this is going to work?
Sorry, was that Tony?
Yeah, go ahead, Derek. Just go through the whole
Go
thing.
Explain how it's going to work with the CARES.
Okay, so essentially CARES will be taking over the responsibilities of what the development department will be doing. This will essentially streamline the process. Now, the personnel in the development office, don't have the numbers right now to handle these organizations and these funds. So we want to streamline this process and get this money out as soon as possible to these organizations, to CARES of New York, to fund the ESG funded agency, which includes the SCAP, YMCA, Bethesda House, and a few others. In our breakdown we have right now, we have the SCAP receiving $298,535 of the ESG CV funds, and the Bethesda House of $186,553, and YMCA $74,382. So essentially what's going to happen is, like I said, we're going to streamline the process. We're going to basically, so CARES of New York they use HUD monitoring techniques, so they're HUD certified. So that's a big thing, especially with the development department. The only change as of now that the city council, I don't know if you could see the breakdown of the allocation, but 8.5% of administrative costs will be in CARES Inc. and 1.5% will go to the city development department. So we're still going to be monitoring CARES of New York and making sure they're doing the correct thing, making sure they're putting the funds to the correct organizations, following the city council allocated budget. So the department will be getting quarterly reports and invoices from CARES of New York. Is there any questions?
Mr. Mudaveran, may I just add in something here? I don't know whose committee this is, and I apologize.
It's mine, but go ahead, Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Palomini. Page 9 of the committee agenda has the breakdown. As Derek indicated, it's just a shift in the administration costs. It had been just the city was covering the administration costs, but as Derek indicated, the city is going to be using CARES of New York Inc. To be the administrator for the funding here, with the city providing general oversight. So it's just a shift in the administration.
Are there other questions?
Yeah, John, Ed Kozier here. So my question, where is CARES Inc. and how did we come up with this group? I understand they're not even located in the city of Schenectady or even our county. They're out of Albany, New York. Are we saying we couldn't find a local agency to do the admin for this plan?
May I answer that?
Go ahead, Mr. Ferrari.
Councilman Kozier, CARES, they specialize especially in homeless management and outreach. We've used them, the city of Schenectady, we've used them for over 15 years for a lot of our continuum of care and research. And they've always worked for us. And yes, they are the best at what they do. And we don't really have one that works as well as CARES. It has the capacity to do what they are doing. And that's why we.
Mr. Chairman, I believe they're also doing this for Albany and Troy.
Absolutely.
And one other follow-up question, if I may, Mr. Palmeni. We're talking about homeless. All these folks are dealing with homeless folks. I'm very disappointed that Safe Inc. was not included in any of this funding. Safe Inc., as you may know, is the only agency, not only in the city but in the county, that provides shelter for our homeless teenage youth. I understand there's supposed to be another round of funding that's going to be coming forward, hopefully, and I want to be sure that Safe Inc. is included in future funding, because again, they are the only agency in this area that houses our homeless teenagers. Thank you.
Yes, we are expecting a second round of funding. They are on our.
Mr. Palmini.
Yes, Mr. Movarin.
Yes, just an observation. I mean, it's not a problem of moving the funding, reallocating the funding from the Department of Development because of the resource, and put this in an agency to manage the affairs of this CARES funding. But it's the unnecessary stuff that we end up with when the majority of the council wanted to make some changes. And we went through, the hoop in terms of calling for public hearing on reallocation that the council was looking at below $50,000. And here we are in front of the council with a 50,000 plus reallocation without a public hearing. And now we are told different information from Mr. Derrick here. And with all due respect, Mr. Derrick, can you put those information in writing and send it to the council so that we have it for future record? So that when we going down back this next year, we will not be, heading into this direction next year or future years.
In regards to the 100,000 cumulative total?
The information that you got from HUD today, if you can put that in an email and send it to the entire council, I will really appreciate it.
What information did I receive?
Derek, the $100,000 threshold for a public hearing. So
from the City of Development Department. That's the city of Schenectady Consolidated Plan, Citizen Participation Plan.
Right, we understand that. What Mr. Modaveran's asking for is just the email explaining what HUD explained to you, is that there in fact is no threshold, and that the $100,000 was in fact a development office threshold. And because the problem, as you know, and we're not intending to blame you, is that we were told by the development office prior that the threshold was in fact $50,000 for a public hearing, and now the information is different. So just so Mr. Modaveran and the rest of the council can have this in writing for future reference.
Okay. And just to follow up on that conversation, so item 4, look at what happened in that we had items under $50,000 that went back to public hearing. So I don't have any issue with reallocation of this funding because it's going for a purpose. But then we shouldn't have any problem with item number 4, adopting the changes that the majority of the council wanted on the 2021, item number 5, the annual plan.
All right, are there any other questions?
Can I have a motion? Mr. Palmeni?
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to find out, so if we know whether, so is CARES, as CARES being the coordinated agency for these grants, is CARES also setting the outcomes and determining whether results are actually being achieved with the money, or is the city working with them to develop those outcome measures, or how do we assess, are they assessing for us that the money's actually being used to achieve the outcomes that folks must have had to outline when they applied for the money?
Yes, Ms. Patrick, CARES, that's what they specialize in. So
Okay.
that is why they're administrative funds. They do have their goals, and they do all the research, and they also do all the analytics for that too. So
Great.
be able to provide us with those numbers.
Right, and also the development department will be monitoring as in New York.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Anything else?
if there's no more comments, I would like to move this reallocation,
So
pending the email from Mr. Derrick to the entire council.
okay. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is the adoption of the 2020 to 2024 HUD Consolidated Plan. Is this Derek again? Or Mr. Ferrari?
Yes, this was a plan that was developed when we did the 5-year consolidation that we developed for the city. Oh my God, I can't find. Lost my all the backup to it. But you guys have the backup to that, right?
Yes.
And
Yes, we do.
yes, and that is something that we did. The Department of Development, along with our researcher Susan Lombardi, to get all this information, and also with the continuum of care and the CARES. With the information from them, we put together this 5-year plan that will. That should want to be accepted for the consolidated plan for 2020 through 2024.
Are there any questions?
Let me try to find it now. I lost it.
Okay, don't hear any. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motioned and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is the 2020-2021 HUD Annual Action Plan, again with Mr. Ferrari.
Okay, that's the action plan that was brought to the council at one time, and this is, I guess, we're coming back to you guys. And like I said, I lost my back.
We all have it.
Okay, so that is the original plan set up. That's the motion that we want to accept, so we can accept, and then you want to make amendments. We'll make the amendment after we all approved. All right.
All right. Are there any questions? All right. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And the last item is a discussion on Central Parkway, sidewalk petitions. This is myself. Some residents on Central Parkway have gone through and looking to replace their sidewalks, have started the process of petitioning for the sidewalk program. They have turned in those petitions. As our process, the first step is to send those petitions on to Mr. Colden's office as well as the engineering office to have the petitions checked to make sure the signatures are in fact the homeowners. All right, any questions on that? All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second by Mr. Mouvern. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ms. Patrick.
Yes, I'd like to open the Health and Recreation Committee meeting, and I'd like to ask Mr. Colden to discuss the agreement with the Schenectady Little League for use of the baseball fields at Oregon and Crosstown. Andrew?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. So Schenectady Little League has been using 3 baseball fields over at Oregon Avenue and Crosstown Connection, Route 7, for a number of years. It is, in the opinion of the city, to have a formal grant to Schenectady Little League for the use of the fields will better protect the city and better protect the Little League, and it's really in the interest of the city to do so. I had provided a draft agreement outlining the terms that I think would be best for the city. The one thing that I did have a meeting with Mr. Kosher and members of the Schenectady Little League, the one thing that they really pointed out was that they would like the agreement to require any termination to be by December 1 for the next Little League year in order to provide a season's notice. While certainly it's up to the city council in terms of what it would like to do, my recommendation is that the city provide a 10-year term to the agreement, that we require Schenectady Little League to obtain general liability insurance as provided in the draft, naming the city as an additional insured, and we provide a termination clause upon a 30 days notice by either party. Obviously, there's no intention of either party to terminate the agreement at any point in time, but in the event that something happens down the line, 5-6 years down the line, where the city needs to terminate for whatever reason, be in the city's interest to only have to provide 30 days notice. Because obviously anything that happens after December 1st, under at least the terms of what Schenectady Little League is seeking, would mean we would have to essentially roll a full year for the termination of the agreement to take place. So it's the recommendation of the law department that the city can, both the committee here, approve the legislative request for full consideration of the city council.
Any questions or comments?
Well, yeah, no, I do have a question. Mr. Colden, so is that same 30-day notice, was that given to the Schenectady Bay Roof group as well?
The terms, yes, thank you, Mr. Kosher. The terms of the lease that I provided to City Council reflect the exact terms that were provided to that group as well.
Very good. That's very good. Thank you, sir.
Anything else from other council members?
I'll move
Okay.
it.
I'll move it. Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Palomeni and seconded by Mr. Mudavaren. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, may I have a
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Ms. Porterfield.
Yes, I'd like to call together, to order rather, government operations. There's one item for discussion, which is census participation. Now, all of you, if you looked at the actual legislative request that I sent in, and if you've been reading the newspaper, you know that the city of Schenectady was under 50% in terms of our count. The county's at about 63. So at this point in time, the county has pulled together a team to work on this, and been various participants have been asked to do different things in terms of that. I know that the city did have a complete count committee, but COVID happened, and the committee really there wasn't a lot getting done. And so right now there's a push because the date that the census has to be completed has been moved up to September 30th, which is a month earlier than originally anticipated. So we're really under the gun to get our count because we know that it's connected to funding, which is extremely important. And being at 50% is it's not acceptable and will severely impact the funding that comes into our city. So as I said, there's various groups working on things. I can, if you'd like, I could forward you the email. There are weekly meetings for this group. Right now, I'm the only person from the city that's attending, but I did have a conversation with Alex today. My hope is that the city will be represented also by someone that actually through the mayor's office. So what has happened is they're asking that the city council participate by having a census table at the Green Market on Sundays. Which Mr. Kosher actually offered this option to use the table that's at the Green Market from 10 to 1, Mr. Kosher. And so this is the goal is to do this until the end of September, which will be the last day in September that within that time frame, I should say, would be September 27th. But to be there, to have a table, and to encourage people to complete the census, those that haven't. Let me say that the woman who, Susan Brink, who works for the Census Bureau, who has already been at the Green Market, felt that most of the people that came there already had completed their census, and so wasn't sure of the value in that. So so we're planning on doing it this Sunday. Let me just say that. They will have someone there from the census, 2 or 3 people actually there, who will actually do the work on their portable device and to actually do the work for people so that people, they're not doing it on their personal phones. We're not being asked to do that. And they actually get the information right there. The goal and the role of the city council members was basically to engage people, encourage them to do that. So Susan's goal is to wait to sort of have a look, see how we do this week, see if it's value coming back the next Sunday. I think we should kind of expand that a little bit further, and as a council discuss whether we just want to continually be there for the rest of this time through the end of September. And then the county was willing to provide a banner. They also said they would provide devices for us to actually do this census on it ourselves if the census workers don't feel it's valuable the time spent there. And additionally, we could then drive people there to say, this is a place, if you haven't done your census, you can come there on Sundays and get vegetables and complete your census at the same time. So even though you may not get the people that normally come may have already done it, I think that we should try to figure out a way to drive people to come to that location for those who don't have computers, who might have some struggling to actually do the census themselves, because we are allowed to help them do it. So starting this Sunday would be our first Sunday, and then Mr. Kosher has said that we could get it for every Sunday from now to the end of September. Then we would see if that's something we want to continue to do. And certainly council members are invited and encouraged to help participate, and so that we can get our count up. So that's basically overall. So are there any questions about that?
Yes. Hello.
Yes, Ms. Lewski, is that you?
Yes, it's me.
Okay.
So I was, I know you and I probably go back and forth as most of the council people do, stating that the census is extremely important and that we need to do this. I think it's a great idea to go to the green market, but I also believe that most of the people that do attend are probably already have taken care of it because they have had tables. Is there any other opportunities out in the community where, we don't have anything that there's large gatherings of any, county night would have been a great idea for us to, have huge presence to get the census done. But I don't know if there's any other opportunities throughout the city for where we can set up and help out to ensure that people are being counted. Have you had any discussions with anyone on the task force about that?
Absolutely. Actually, there's an email which outlines in the meeting. There are quite a few people present, obviously, and let me pull up the email. And there were the census was represented, the county was represented, the community was represented. So in that email, it outlines what every person is going to be responsible to do. So just let me give you some ideas. Is that there's a person who's responsible reaching out to DMV and DSS because people go there all the time. On the 27th, there's going to be a mass food distribution at the Sikkim Food Pantry. There will be people there who will, both the census workers to actually do that and people to help encourage people to do that. So yes, there are numerous things that are going on. There'll be outreach to the churches once again, whether they're having virtual services or actually for those that are actual meeting. So there is a list of things that assignments that have been given to people on the task force to cover the numerous things that are the numerous things that are going on, and the mass gatherings, one of them being food distribution. As you know, there was one in Rotterdam over the weekend, and so they handed out flyers there. I can say that last week at the COVID testing site, there was actually census takers there doing intake there. So those places have been identified, yes.
Great, thank you. I'm planning on going to this green market on Sunday. If we're having a table, I'll be there.
All right, thank you.
There you go. Ms. Porterfield?
Mr. Kosher.
Yeah, and again, thank you all and all the colleagues. I know we'll have a great turnout. you know, and I think what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, is just walk around the green market and steer people towards that tent instead of waiting them for come to us. Let's walk around and get them to come to the tent. But you know, I just looked at the Schenectady City School District website. You know, there's not a single thing on there about the U.S. Census, not even in their darn search box. You know, that is a missing link, Ms. Porterfield. If you're on your group there, I would, whoever your leader is there, if it's Jason or whoever it is, really has to reach out to that school district and get them to put that on their link. Now, I'm assuming we have it on ours, Mr. Mayor. I haven't looked at ours. Was that Gary saying something? I thought.
No, I think he's gone.
Okay, because I thought I heard something in the background there. He must be on my shoulder here talking to me. But again, I think it's very, very important that we get out there and do this. You know, spread the word as much as we can. We're doing a good job at that. You know, and there really isn't any more mass gatherings. You know, everything is done, unfortunately, and it's all safety. And so we really got to do our job. We all have Facebooks. Get our Facebooks working out there. Those who have Twitter accounts, just keep flying it out there, sharing it, and you know, get your hits, and hopefully they'll come Sunday to the Green Market, and we'll get it done. But Ms. Porterfield, I would certainly follow up the school district if you could, or have Jason do that to get it on their darn page.
Actually, Mr. Kosher, on the county's list, the school district is on there already. And there is a committee that we've reached out to that is working with them consistently to do that. They're also talking about working with DSIC, having a reverse 911 call, as I said, DSS and DMV. And we're the Boys and Girls Club and SCAP. So, and actually there's one that is going to be done through Cocoa House, where they're going to have pizza for the people, where they're going to deliver pizzas and actually go to people's homes and do the census. So trying to even create some situations because we lack mass gatherings. But there's a lot of work being done around this. So, and I could share with you the email and the outline, which includes the statistics, if you would like to see that information.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any more questions or any more input?
Thank you for that.
You're quite welcome. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Call to order public safety. We have one item for discussion, police reform / task force. Ms. Porterfield has asked to discuss police reform, and Mr. Kosher wanted an update from the mayor's office on the task force and the way forward. I think both of these items are interlinking together with the task force being set up to look at police reform, and I think both are very important topics for discussion on how we move forward in creating reform for the police department. So I'll ask Ms. Porterfield to go first, and then Mr. Kosher, if you don't mind.
Certainly. So thank you, Mr. Mudavarian. As was mentioned before, that as we all know that the governor put out Executive Order 203 in June, that we have to do some police reforms that's tied directly to our funding. We have to get this all completed by April 1st, 2020, which may sound like a far away, but the way things are moving, it's really not that far. So that we needed to really move forward. We got the original executive order, which all of you were sent to you. There was an additional email today that was sent out. It was sent out at 2:02. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it, clearly I understand. But it was a press release that the governor sent out, and it was basically kind of an update, and it includes some information about jurisdictions and police departments and guidance. There's a 139-page workbook that people can take a look at as we move forward. The reason I wanted to bring this before the council is because, as Mr. Mudavarian has said, I know that there's going to be a task force, but as government officials, we also need to do our due diligence, and we should probably have those discussions started sooner rather than later. And actually, the governor actually says that in his email, the press release that he sent out today. As I said, the director of the Division of Budget will, make sure that we have this plan adopted and it's tied directly to our funding. So as a council, I'm asking that we start to have these discussions. In the email that was sent out today, it lays out exactly the kind of, that first of all, that should be a collaborative process. And we know that the community needs to be involved and those community conversations are going to be taking place. I don't think that we necessarily need to wait till they begin, but as a council, we should begin our work. And I see our first order of business basically is reviewing the current policies, which also, as I said, is in the executive order, and it specifically says that we should have a comprehensive review of current police deployment strategies, policies, procedures, and practices, and then develop a plan to improve them. So that's certainly a place that we should begin. And I would ask that I would ask Chief Clifford to send us a copy of that so we can then begin to look at that and to review that. So again, if you didn't get the email today, just, have a time to look at it. So it just goes through what we need to do. I know that the task force is not beginning until later in September, as I understand it. However, I think we already know that community conversations have already started, and most of us have attended some of those conversations. So those are opportunities for us to take notes, taking what's being said, and as we develop what we're going to do. Having said that, there's also going to be one this coming Wednesday. I just got a text this afternoon, Wednesday at 6 p.m. at Bethel AME Church on Mumford Street. I know that we got an email that was from a person who was concerned that all of these were being done at churches. And that's who's convening them. So if there's other organizations that are outside of religious organizations that want to convene them, there's no restriction on that to convene a community conversation. I am going to encourage those that are doing these community conversations to actually let there be some written notes taken that can then be given over to the task force or to the city council or to both, so that there's some notes taken, so it becomes it's an opportunity to vocalize what people's concerns are, but also to take note of it, because I think that's important as we move forward and work through this legislation. It is definitely going to be challenging to have these gatherings during COVID, but people are doing it, and there will probably be some Zooms as well. So we're in a really good position to to help to convene the process to move forward. So what I would like us to see is to council members, as I find out about things, and hopefully more than 2 days before, sorry about that, but I found out today, I will share that when these community conversations are going to happen, and that we attend as much as possible, share the information with each other, even if all the people cannot attend, because we really don't have a lot of time to get this done. So what I would hope, Mr. Mudavarian, is that we could see this come up on the agenda. If not, every.
I think you're cutting out.
I'm sorry? Can everyone hear me?
I got you.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Mudavarian, so even if we're not doing this every 2 weeks, at least once a month, or as needed, if there's meetings and we need to actually put this on the agenda and discuss it, I would like to see us do that. But again, our starting point would be to review our current policies, because we don't know what needs to change if we don't know what exists.
Yep. Mr. Mudavarian? Mr. Mudavarian? Hello, Mr. Mudavarian.
Go ahead, Mr. Kojal.
Very good. Thank you, sir. As Ms. Porterfield pointed out, we got that email from the governor's office late this afternoon. And again, it is 139 pages. It's a complete resource and guide for the public officials and citizens. I started reading it, but again, it's just a lot of good reading. But as I talked to some of you today, I did have a meeting with the mayor and Carissa and Ryan Marchon from the Schenectady PD, and I know he's reaching out to each and every one of us to discuss this. So I think the mayor really is doing a great job on this, Ms. Porterfield, and I thought you had a meeting with him as well. But he is devising a very good group of folks to be included in, I guess they're going to call it a steering committee or something. They really don't have a name for this yet. But, it's being facilitated, with the Fin Institute. So we're going to have a very fine organization here from Albany who's going to be overseeing the project, along with Jason from the chamber, who's going to be overseeing these community meetings. And the mayor has promised to keep all our council members informed on all of the meetings that Carissa and their office will be scheduling. And Chris, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there any way you can chime in and say a couple words on this? I know you're here, or if you're on the spot, I apologize, but it seems like you're really running this for the mayor's office. Would you care to speak up just for a minute or two, if you don't mind?
Go ahead, Ms. Carissa.
Her computer doesn't have a
It
microphone,
doesn't have a
unfortunately.
mic, yeah.
Oh,
She can't talk.
what the heck? Where is she, on a city computer or what? Mike,
Yeah.
it says give her 2 minutes. All right, so I'm not going to talk for 2 minutes. So, and
Mr. Kosha, please hold. We have Mr. Sutherland online also. Would you be able to give us a bit of comment on this task force and meetings and what is in the pipeline? Very briefly.
No mic for him either. There's no mic.
I think he has mic.
what the heck, man?
No, he typed in there, no mic.
I think they're both kidding us. They're
Mike.
belong.
No,
I don't think so.
you know what?
City computers don't have mics.
Oh my gosh. So anyway, listen real quick. And, again, with my meeting, we talked about having the youth at the table as well. So I contacted our two advisors at Schenectady High School with our city council youth advisory board, who unfortunately we never got to meet because of the COVID. But both of the administrators that were very excited and welcomed our youth to the table, and are really looking and planning to getting involved with this whole process as well. But again, the mayor made a strong commitment, and that's one of the things that I pointed out. Whatever we are planning as a city, or he's planning out his offices, has to be conveyed to all the council members so we can attend. All right, she's got call and user 3. I think that's her. So I'm gonna hang up. There you go, Krista. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. My city computer does not have a mic, unfortunately. But as most of you are all aware, we have been working through, the mayor and myself and Lieutenant Mascherone, as well as Chief Clifford, have been working through discussing with each one of you the status of where we are with the task force. Right now, as you guys learned this afternoon, the governor released guidance and a workbook regarding a timeline and approach to help communities who are working to put their task force together. As I've mentioned, we're looking to invite anyone and every organization that wants to participate. These won't be closed meetings, they'll be public meetings. And we're just seeking to get as much input as we can to where at the end of this, we can really look at what the community wants and what the community needs from their police department. So that's where partnering with the Fin Institute comes into play, where they are an independent research partner tracking, monitoring, keeping minutes of our meetings, and collecting themes throughout. So at the end of our series of meetings, our steering committee can then look to and say, okay, this is what the consensus is in our community. These are the changes or reforms that are what's being called upon our police department. And then we will then develop a plan for public comment, which will then be submitted to the council prior to April 1, 2021. Now, I was just looking at the calendar again today. So that Monday's March 29th. So it would really be the end of March, because that April 1 is a Thursday. But as you guys know, it's still very fluid right now. We haven't formally announced anything. So behind the scenes, we are still combing through details and structure and making sure we don't leave any stone unturned through the process. So it's important that if you have input or suggestions or groups that want to be a part of that we either haven't reached out to yet or don't know a way to get in contact with us, you guys are a great resource to make sure that information gets to myself or Lieutenant Mascherone. If you have any questions, I'm always available to answer anything and kind of provide feedback. This is a learning experience for all of us, and it's something that I think is only going to help our community in the long run, because it's not just police issues, but it's quality of life, it's social issues, it's everything wrapped into one. So this is a great starting point for things that we can get done in the future.
Ms. Carissa, with the task force being set up and moving forward, would you mind keeping the entire council abreast with the events or outreach meetings that are scheduled? So that way we will schedule ourselves and we will make all attempts to be at these meetings, because overall the task force is very important. It is a task force that will make the recommendation to the city council for us to review the changes and make our own recommendation too. So it's very important that we be involved and we are invited to these outreach events so that we have a better handle on what is being said out there.
Agreed, absolutely.
I know I have a meeting scheduled with the mayor and the police department this Friday. Sorry I couldn't make it last week, but I encourage, I'm sure that the other council member have met already or they have a scheduled meeting. So I encourage people to just let's get this over and done with, and let's move forward with allowing the mayor and the police department to move forward with this task force.
Mr. Mudavan, I have a question.
Go ahead.
For Carissa. So could you just kind of give us an outline of what the timeline is going to look like? And additionally, I have seen I did have a meeting with the mayor and you, Carissa. And so if you could just give a sense of, there's a number of groups that are represented there, like businesses, education, et cetera. So could you kind of explain how that will work? Will it be all of those groups meeting together? Will those groups be meeting individually? Has that been even worked out? And what the timeline is for all of these meetings to take place and the information to be compiled?
Okay, so first to address the timeline, trying to work everything backwards from that March 29th deadline, I'll call it, in 2021. I'm looking to have have everything done within 4 phases. So our initial first phase will be our initial outreach between August and September, where we'll have a call to action to the number of different organizations, groups, individuals within the city. So to touch base on the second part of your question about the groups we're reaching out to, it's a fluid list, and it's not limited to different constituencies. So there's education and youth-based, there's faith-based organizations, neighborhood groups, cultural groups, nonprofit groups, health corps organizations, business leaders. We also are engaging with the police union as well. So there's those umbrellas of constituencies then have their own groups. So those groups we're asking to meet and discuss prior to any of the collaborative meetings, and discuss what their feelings are towards the police. And then when they submit their 2 representatives, those 2 representatives will then attend, if, for example, if it's a education and youth-based meeting night, those 2 representatives from any of those groups that fit under the umbrella of education and youth-based group will have those meetings then. But to get back to the timeline, phase 1 is that August to September. So right now we're still working through through outreach and just the overall structure. Phase 2, we're looking to have mid-September. So that's our series of community meetings. So that's September to October. That way we can start to have our meetings, and our steering committee can meet with the Finn Institute and kind of start putting together, as these meetings happen on a bi-weekly basis, any consistent themes. Phase 3, November through December of this year, we're looking to put our draft plan together. So that would be at the conclusion, or excuse me, not conclusion, but at the point in which we have a sufficient or extensive feedback from every constituency group, we'll then look for those common themes with the Fin Institute to put together any reforms or policy changes that the community wants and the community feels that are necessary within the police department. Then phase 4, which is the public comment period and ratification by the council. So that's that January 2021 to March 2021 timeline, where we'll put the plan, the steering committee will put the plan forward, and we'll go through any public comment, any, changes, things like that, and then ratification in March by that April 1 deadline. It's, as you mentioned, Councilmember Porterfield, it's pertinent that we conclude our work by April 1, due to the fact that the governor will pull our state aid if it's not completed. So it's so important, and again, we really appreciate the council's support and input throughout the entire process.
Yeah, excellent. Mr. Motivaran, please.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and again, as folks can hear, and those who are listening and watching, you can really see that the mayor and staff here and the police chief have really taken some major steps here in putting this group together and moving forward. I think we are far advanced over any other local municipality as far as what you're doing. And Carissa and Alex, I thank both of you for the work that you're doing, which is, of course, behind the scenes, but is most important, working closely with the mayor and giving him direction. And again, that's what the council is here for. Please make sure you take advantage of all 7 of us, because every one of us bring a different strength to the table and a different strength to this task force that I know you're going to be able to rely on. And again, communication with all of us, as President Motivaran said, is critically important, because we want to be part of this whole group as well. And again, it's very important, and I know we're going to get the job done. So again, thank you to the mayor and everybody working behind the scenes. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Mr.
just to add
Motivaran?
to that, thank you, Ms. Carissa, for that detailed timeline. It kind of gives us a better understanding of what we need to do as a council. And you know what, it's important that, we, as a council, lend our support to the task force and eventually to the police reform.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Mr. Motivaran?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to thank Carissa also for responding to that and giving us the detailed information. And I just want to reiterate to my colleagues that all the task force is going to do their work, but I still, hopefully, that separate and apart from that, we'll also be doing our work and working, because I don't think we can afford to wait till all the public comments are in before we then start to review the current policies and make some recommendations of our own. So I just want to make sure that we continue to keep that, and we're doing our due diligence alongside the task force doing their work as well.
Mr. Motivaran?
Go ahead, Mr. Palamini.
Yeah, I also like to thank Ms. Vazana, Mr. Sutherland, the mayor, and the police chief. I think they've done a very good job of putting the reform committee or task force, or however you want to call it, together. It's important that we had a broad spectrum of the city represented, and it seems that we've got pretty much everybody somehow engaged as a stakeholder, so that's good. I think it's important us as a council not put the cart before the horse. Certainly this committee is going to play a very important role. It's vital that we give them their opportunities to participate, and we listen to them and see what they have to say as a community. I'm sure some of us, if not all of us, have our own reform ideas, but I think at this point it's for us to really sit back and listen a little bit, and engage with the community, listen to what they have to say, so that we can put something together that at the end, which represents everyone. and make sure that we do in fact listen to our constituents in the city and make sure that it's something that the entire city can, maybe not everyone's going to agree, but get something that represents the entire city. And I think that's important for us to do. And I think it was pretty clear, how we should proceed with the governor's email today, and as well as some of the things that the various committee groups around the city are putting forward. So I look forward to the reform committee, as well as some of these informal groups that are getting together and listening to see what they have to say, so that we can really put something that the city will be proud of. Thank you.
Mr. Mudavera?
Go ahead, Ms. Porterfield.
So let me just address some of those comments.
Mr. Mudavera, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I as I asked before, and I will again, that the council begin to review the current policies we have, because if we don't know what we have, then we don't know what needs to change. So I don't think it's putting the cart before the horse that the council, as elected officials, which is clearly stated in the governor's, both the executive order as well as his email today, has a responsibility. So I think that the task force is going to begin sometime in September. It doesn't mean that we're going ahead of them. It simply means that we're taking this time to review what's current and putting some recommendations together. So I think that, frankly, we can begin our discussions, and it doesn't mean that we're negating what any members of the task force are doing or anything like that. So, to say that we need to sit back and wait and to listen, let me speak for myself. I'm always listening. Attending community meetings is not new to me. It's not foreign to me, and it's something that I consistently do. So I absolutely agree with that. But again, as council members, as elected officials, we still should be doing our work as well. And then when it's all said and done, we could take a comprehensive look at all of it and not necessarily wait. I would like to see us begin reviewing the current policies as is stated in the executive order right as soon as possible, so we can have some points of reference and points of discussion. Thank you.
Before I go to Ms. Patrick, I just want to comment to Mr. Palomini. Some of the statements are correct. The task force is created for that special purpose, and we need to give them the opportunity to go to work and develop a framework of ideas and recommendations to the council. So that way we can then deliberate on it and then incorporate what we think, what we wanted to add. So we should give the task force an opportunity to go there, to reach out to the community, and to get feedback and come up with their report and recommendations to the council. If we're going to go ahead and start do our own recommendation, then what is the purpose of the task force? We should give them an opportunity to do that.
So
Ms.
that's
Patrick.
not taking away. Excuse me. I'll let you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Ms. Patrick, can you please?
She had to sign off because she said that she couldn't hear anything, and she'll sign back in. And I'm not. We're not taking anything away from the task force. So I have to disagree with that interpretation of what I'm saying. I'm saying that we should, as the executive order says, review what we currently have. That's something we can do. We don't have to wait for the task force to convene. So I guess my question is, the task force is going to begin their work sometime in September. So in the meantime, we do nothing. We don't take any look at the current policies. We don't nothing. I have concerns with that, because that means that then we have to then begin our work of reviewing the process once we hear from what the community meetings say. I don't see the harm. As a matter of fact, I do see the value in us reviewing the current policies and then begin to move forward, because we'll know what we're getting input for, and we'll know what currently exists. We can compare those things, and we'll be in a position to move forward much more quickly and stay within the time frame that's being laid out for us.
I think my point is very clear. I think we need to give the task force our undivided support and work with them and to help them along the way. let's not run any parallel discussion in terms of coming up with our own ideas. Can I speak, please? Can I, please?
Hello.
We should allow the task force to conduct the work that they're assigned to, and then they make the recommendation to us. If we're going to run a parallel task force, then what is the purpose of this task force? That the mayor and the police department and the community at large is working day after day to create this group and to come up with recommendations. Ms. Patrick?
So I guess Ms. Patrick couldn't get.
Ms. Patrick?
She's not back yet.
There is a caller for here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Ms. Patrick.
Okay, so I missed a whole bunch of that dialogue. I came in right near the end of what Mr. Mudavaran was just saying. I do agree that, again, like everyone else, I did want to thank Carissa and Lieutenant Mascherone and the mayor for meeting with us and keeping us in the loop of what is happening. I'm looking forward to attending as many of these meetings as we can. I do agree that it's an important time for us to listen to the community. I wasn't sure, Ms. Porterfield, if you were trying to think that maybe we would get together and have separate meetings to discuss this ourselves. But I kind of agree that we should be, listening to what the public is going to say and continue going to as many of the community meetings as we all can, as we have been doing, like you suggested, and listening there as well. So I might have missed something before, but I just wanted to say that.
No, Ms. Patrick, I was not saying that we should have separate meetings, separate and apart, because as I understand it, the city council is one of those groups on the task force. What I am saying, and what I will continue to say, is that we should be looking at the current policies. So as we get the information from the community, we have something to compare it against. I don't need know that we need to wait until the task force begins and then start our review. So, I stand by that. It's very clear in the executive order what needs to be done, and that review of the current policies is one of those things. And I suggest strongly that we begin to do that.
Mr. Mudavaran?
Go ahead, Mr. Palamini.
Yeah, I think it's important that we don't undermine our reform committee. As far as reviewing the policies that we have as a city, it's something that we can all do individually, but to do it publicly, I think really does undermine our reform committee. In fact, it's something I've already started to look at a little bit and had a few conversations with Chief Clifford just on some questions that, quite frankly, policies I didn't understand, and that he was able to answer for me. I think that's something that each of us can do individually, but to have a public comment while we are asking the residents of the city to take time and be part of this committee, I think is really a mistake, and we're really undermining what we're asking people to do. It's important for us to educate ourselves on the policies. I don't disagree with that, but to do it publicly in conjunction of the reform, I just think is a huge mistake. And we should move forward with the recommendations once we get them from the committee and the Fin Institute, see what they have to say, take what we've come with knowledge from our reviews, and hopefully put together a policy that everybody can be proud of.
Thank you. Ms. Karen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mudavaran. I just wanted to, thank you, Mr. Palamini, that you said a lot of what I was going to say, but the policy for the police department is on the website. So anyone can pull that up off the website and can review it. So, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll continue to have this on the agenda, the police reform task force as we go forward. But I think, as Mr. Palamini clearly outlined there, let's give this task force the opportunity to do their work, and let's not undermine them. Any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mudavaren, I really like to address that because I take some opposition to consistently using the term undermine. There is absolutely no need to use that term first and foremost, nor is that what I am talking about here. I need to make that very clear to you. And I really actually offended that the both of you are using it to undermine, as when I'm saying what we as elected officials should do our due diligence. That's all I'm talking about here. And as I said before, and I'll say it again, and I think that I probably am one of the council members that attend most of the meetings throughout the community on a consistent basis. So it's not about undermining the community. It's not about not listening to the community. That is not what it's about at all. I'm saying we should do our due diligence, review those policies. That's very nice of Ms. Zalewski-Walzunas to point out that it's already on the website. What I'm saying is to get a commitment from these council members, from all council members, that we're willing to do that. That is all. I think it's something that we need to do, and we should commit that, yes, we're going to do that. That is simply it. I wasn't asking for us to have any separate meetings. Other folks have turned what I've said into that suggestion. It's not what I said at all. So undermining is not what's going on here.
Mr. Mudavaren?
Let's give our support to this task force, the council. Let's give our support to this task force, and let's work with them side by side so that they can achieve. And we have
that's what I just said, parallel, side by side. That's what parallel means.
Yes. All right. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll say final mute. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I am going to call to order Public Service and Utilities. A couple of items up here. The first one's a discussion with sidewalks around Jerry Burrell Park. Ms. Porterfield, and I guess Mr. Wallen too. I guess Chris is still on. So Ms. Porterfield, go ahead, please.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kosher. So several weeks ago when we discussed doing the sidewalks around Jerry Burrell Park, I opened up some discussion as whether we could reach out to residents who lived adjacent to the park in order to see if they wanted to participate or benefit from the fact that we were doing sidewalks very close to their property and maybe have the opportunity to get it done right then and there. And that will also offer some consistency on the block that the sidewalks are being done from Hamilton Street all the way to Albany Street. Mr. Kosher also brought up doing it on Page Street. However, as I said during that time, I would go and speak to the folks on Schenectady Street that are immediately adjacent to the park, which I did, and they actually own 2 lots. Mr. Wallen provided me with the information on what it would cost overall, bringing it down to quarterly, yearly, and then quarterly. So I did go to the folks who live adjacent and shared it with them. Let me say that there's their property, and then there's a city property, and then there's another property that's owned by someone who doesn't take very good care, and he owns lots of properties in the neighborhood. And then finally on the corner, there's property that's owned by the community builders. So in talking with the residents, and when they looked at the numbers, they felt that it was too prohibitive in terms of what their income was to be able to go ahead and do that. And since the other 2 properties, was the city, et cetera, I didn't take it beyond that because if they weren't willing to do it, then in my mind anyway, it didn't make sense to stop at Jerry Burrell Park, skip 2 parcels, pick up a parcel, maybe skip another one, and then maybe at the end where community builders is actually going to be putting up some properties, they usually do sidewalks. So since the homeowners that are adjacent to the park said they just couldn't afford it, that's where I left it. But I just wanted to make sure that they first of all were aware it's going to happen, so that when it did happen, they wouldn't say, we weren't aware. We would have gone forward and gotten our sidewalks done. So that's the update. And as of today, they would not be able to afford, would love to have it done, but said that they just couldn't afford to incur that cost. So I just wanted to bring that back since I said that I would go and talk to the residents. Thank you.
So Chris, where are we at this? Mr. Wallen, are you on, Chris, by any chance? Is Chris there?
I'm on.
Hey, so how far along are we on this bidding process with this whole project, Chris? Where are we with that?
bidding process. No bidding. It was a change order that you guys discussed a couple cycles ago.
That's right. That's right. So is this work being done this year then, or spring
Yes.
of 2021?
No, it's going to be done this year, so we could bill it this year.
Year. All right. So really, we're only talking about one house then, Marion? Is that what we're talking about? The other two are city properties and then a lot, or one residence?
Okay, there's a resident that owns 2 lots, and then right after that is a city house. Then there's another privately owned house by a person who does not maintain his property very well throughout the community, and it's owned by the community builders, who, as you know, are doing a lot of development in Hamilton Hill.
They're going to do it, yeah.
And so they will probably do their own sidewalks. That's generally been how they do around their projects. They do their own sidewalks.
Yeah, they sure.
So the people that could have benefited the most, who live directly adjacent to the park, said they just really could not financially take that on in order to do that.
Yeah, understood. Any comments or suggestions here? Anybody at all, or?
No, it's just unfortunate that they can't afford it. I mean, I think the council are ready to move forward and to assist in helping them to get the petition in and whatever we need to do. But, unfortunate situation. Maybe next time.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we could talk about it, Ms. Porter. We could maybe have a conversation with community builders, see if they can help out. I don't know. I just, I have not gone down that street. I've always stopped at, oh my gosh, the one house there on, oh my gosh, who was his name? Mr. Simpkins. I couldn't even think of his name.
Well, what we're talking about is directly across the street from Mr. Simpkins' home.
But that's what I'm saying. I never really look on the other side of the street. It's always walk through the house, and then we continue on. So
yeah,
right,
okay.
Well, see what we can do. So, well, thank you for looking at that, Ms. Porterfield. And
absolutely.
Unfortunately, I guess there's not much we can do with this at this point.
Right.
Thank you for your interest. So, all right, so let's move on to item number 2, the small wireless facility. We did have a public hearing last Monday, and we had one reply to us, and that actually came from Verizon themselves. And I know, Andrew, Mr. Colden, you're on. Can you make any comments to this and walk through this?
Thank you, Mr. Kosher. I believe Mr. Commodore is on and he can speak.
Is he? Oh, you're
much more intelligently than me on this.
My apologies, Mr. Commodore. Are you there? I have a different screen here. Go ahead, sir. And thank you for your patience. We enjoy seeing your name on our screen here. So go ahead. You've got the floor here, sir.
No problem. Verizon did come back after they reviewed the draft proposal. There were very minor comments. The only one, I believe, that required any change to the document that is we're proposing move ahead before the full council for vote is a change in the timeline for the city to confirm whether an application is complete from 20 days down to 10. Verizon did alert us, and I was able to confirm there's been an additional clarification from the FCC that is the appropriate timeline based on the federal regulations. So beyond that, we've received no other comments other than just some requests for clarification as to what other fees and such may apply. Those are the fees that the city council wanted language added for the potential to add additional fees in the future. That has been communicated to them at this time. It is the existing discretionary fees such as building permits, et cetera, but that no other fees have yet been enacted by the council. So with that, our request is to move this matter forward for actually making the final changes to the code at the next council meeting.
All right. So, Mr. Colden, you're talking about that first one, line number 2 there, right? It says currently inconsistent with an application of 10 days. I'm looking on our page 62, and I thought that's what you have in there.
The document has been updated.
Oh, is that what you did? Yes. Oh, okay. So it's in blue. I see the blue. Okie dokie. Well, that kind of makes sense. All right. And then his question number 4 was actually section J, not L. He has listed section L on there. And it's
Yes, it
actually
was
section J. So if any, the council members are looking, that's page 64 of the document. And that's where he was discussing that. So, so Mr. Colon, you, or Commodore, you think everything else is pretty much set then, correct? I mean, we're fine with this, your office?
I believe. Yes, I am. I believe we're set to proceed to the full council.
All right, so any questions from my colleagues? And Mr. Commodore is here to answer any questions. Yep. All right, and again, Mr. Commodore, thank you very much for all your hard work, and Mr. Colden as well. I know we've met a few times on this and really ironed it out, but this is an important document for the city of Schenectady with all the 5G that's going to be moving forward. You guys have put a lot of work in this, and certainly thank the both of you for doing this. So if I no further discussion, I guess I need a motion to accept this document. It's either John or Carmel. And Carmel's probably being muted. Hello, Mr. Paul Manny.
Yep, my button was on mute. Didn't realize it. I'll move it.
There you go. All right, you're gonna make the motion. Ms. Patrick, can you second it? Just nod your head yes. Ms. Patrick, can you hear me? All right, she can't hear us, so we gotta get some new stuff. So I will second this. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Anything else to come before public service and utilities?
Motion to adjourn.
I will second that, and we're adjourned. Thank you.
Ms. Karen, can you please call back city development and planning, and let's go into executive.
Yeah, do we want to do claims, or do you want to open claims and then I can go to executive session? Because that has to be an executive session also.
Yep, okay, so I'll do that, Mr. President, if that's okay with you, sir?
Fine with me, sir.
All right, thank you. And again, I'm acting for Ms. Perazzo, who is not with us this evening, so I'm sharing claims, and I'd like to call it to order, and I need a motion to go in executive session to discuss one issue with Catholic Mutual Group, also known as St. Luke's Catholic Church in the city of Schenectady. Need a motion by Ms. Porterfield?
So moved. So moved.
All right, thank you. And I will second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so we're leaving this screen and heading on to another one. Thank you, folks.